welcome to The Good Interview. I am your host, Colin Birch, and today I am so grateful to be hosting the interview at SOS Africa, at their newest education center. To my right, I have the founder of SOS Africa, Matthew Crowcombe. Matthew, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, welcome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. You gave us a tour earlier. It is a stunning place, guys. There are so many rooms, and although she is not here, his lovely wife was the architect behind the vision that you see here, at least in terms of the building. And hopefully she'll pop in a bit, maybe.
I'm sure she will.
All right. What was it that initially transpired that led you to South Africa? First of all, why South Africa? And what happened on that visit that created SOS Africa?
So it was purely by chance, really. I finished my A-level exams in England, and to be honest with you, wanted to have a bit of a break. So I applied for a gap year to Australia. The company, because of my interview, decided to send me to the one place I could get insurance in South Africa, which was an international school in Mafeking. After 3 months, then I was suddenly on a flight to Johannesburg, and then a strange 3-hour car journey to a place in the middle of nowhere, and my gap year began. While I was there, really I met an inspirational teacher who sort of showed me around the local communities.
Matthew Hendries, right?
That's Henry Matthews.
Henry Matthews.
He sort of introduced me to a lot of people in the local communities. The school where we were teaching was an international school with predominantly kind of wealthy students. There was a prince and a princess that attended there.
Oh, really?
So my time was not very well spent. So unbeknown to my insurance company and my parents, I would sneak out of the school and go and teach in the local school.
That's awesome.
There I met a young lad with huge potential, who was in a class size of about 60 with I mean, if you're late for that lesson, you're watching from the window. It's literally that bad. And I saw his potential, and I worked out that with my pocket money, I could actually fund for him to go to a good school in the town, and provide everything from school tuition, transport, school clothing, stationery, and after-school care. Can you believe it?
That is so beautiful, Matt. Wow.
So a quick phone call to Bank of Mum and Dad.
Of course.
and then January of that year, completely unexpected, I then walked the young lad through the school gates for the first time, and the rest is history.
Wow, I can only imagine how stoked he must have been on that day.
Yeah, it was a big moment. I'll never forget. I mean, I think we were both pretty nervous. Maybe I was more nervous than he was, but it made such an impact on his life, and it was so successful that when I then returned to the UK and went to university, my friends at university saw the photos of Thabo on my wall and said, well, you know, that just cost you pocket money. How about we raise some more funds and send more kids to school? So at that point then we thought, okay, this is going to grow. So we registered the charity then in my hometown of Shepton Mallet, and we sort of took part in fundraising events, half marathons. A team of 6 suddenly became 60.
Oh, wow.
Swansea University team became Cardiff, became Portsmouth. Went across the Atlantic then, and societies were set up in California, all over the place really. So it was a very grassroots sort of student initiative to start with, and it just took off, and the numbers of children supported increased, and in a very organic way.
No, that's incredible. It must have been quite an undertaking for you, considering, I mean, it started at 18, right? And
I think when you founded something, when you've been part of its creation, it doesn't take much to inspire you to continue growing it. I knew that every penny of that money would make a huge difference. I received photos and school reports from Thabo's progress. I could see it was making a huge impact on him, and then all the other children that followed in his footsteps. So in terms of motivation, that was enough to inspire me, and indeed sponsors and fundraisers all over the world when it was in its infancy.
Okay.
So a lot of work, but it definitely gets you out of bed in the morning. It's
okay. Fair enough. Not only out of bed in the morning, but keeping you up late at night as well. I can imagine.
It does.
Yeah. And so I also wanted to ask, so how how involved was Henry when you guys first started this, and how have you guys delegated the responsibilities to provide the most efficacious programs for your students?
Sure, it's a good question. Henry, when we first met, was a teacher in the international school where I was based. Him and I, over one famous night, over a bowl of jelly and ice cream, came up with the idea of supporting Thabo and potentially a charity thereafter. Our roles were very different, so mine would be very much to start with in a fundraising capacity, and he would oversee our mafficking projects. And as the charity grew then, I would say 2013-14, then we realised that there was enough income and scope then for us to move to other areas of South Africa, and that's when we moved down to the Western Cape. His role then stayed overseeing the mafficking projects.
I see.
So then we moved down here, and Claudia, my wife, was based here. She went to college here, so she showed me around and showed me around the communities here, and I sort of obviously realised that the need was great here as well, and then we began sort of expanding across this area. So Henry very much based in mafficking. I was a fundraiser, and my role here has grown and grown over the years until during COVID, my wife and I and our then son, who's 2 years old, we realised we don't want to get stuck in the UK and away from our projects. And so as soon as we could, we moved out and moved here.
Okay, so
and now we run everything full time.
During COVID that you guys moved down to stay here.
It wasn't nice. We were trapped away from all of our projects. I don't like to rely on my staff all the time. I like to be hands-on. I like to oversee the projects here. And so I made a decision during COVID. I got on the first NGO flight I could, came out and worked on our projects here, and we realised at that point this has got so big that we want to be here to oversee it. And we all realise that you can work from anywhere now.
Yeah,
so fundraising online and flying back to the UK for our fundraising initiatives twice a year is perfectly feasible.
Okay. So you guys do still head back. That's
definitely.
Yeah.
Most of our fundraisers, we have sponsors all over the world, but we do organise very cool annual fundraising events in the UK, back in the communities where the charity began. And also my mum, as she would like me to tell you, runs a charity shop. In my hometown of Shetland.
Look at that. Did she start that before you? Or
no, so she started that. It's been going about 10 years now.
Okay.
So
you inspired her?
Yeah, but listen, she sponsored the first kid, so I'm going to give that to her. Yeah. But charity shops are brilliant as well, because we were able to mobilise a big volunteer force, and also that group of people also involved in fundraising for us, and so very grassroots. So we have an army of retired ladies that run the shop now and raise a lot of money actually, but also a lot of awareness. They're very dedicated to what we do.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, yeah. So speaking on SOS Africa is a grassroots charity organization. And what you guys do, is such an incredible thing, and specifically two of the things you emphasize specifically are transparency and cost reduction.
Sure.
And I wanted to find out, what does that look like practically?
Okay, it's a great question, and it's certainly the reason why people, I think, like sponsoring through us. When we first started out, Henry and I made a choice that we wanted 100% of all the funds raised to come out here. And you're probably thinking, well, how do you cover costs in the UK? How is my salary paid? The UK is a very philanthropic country, and when people donate to the UK, charities can claim back the tax they paid on their donations.
Okay.
It's called gift aid.
Yeah.
It's quite rare across the world, but the UK have always kept it. So what we did, I volunteered up until 2011, and then I worked part-time, and I was doing a PhD at the same time, so it worked well. And so as our income increased in the UK, we then were able to claim more gift aid, so we were able to claim the tax back, and then that would cover our UK costs.
Okay.
It would cover my salary, it would cover any marketing costs in the UK, which are pretty slim anyway, but it just ensured that when anyone from around the world wanted to sponsor a child, they knew that all that money was going into that child's education. I think nowadays people are getting a bit more frustrated, I think, not quite knowing where their money's going, and these are tough times, right? And I think to be able to say to a sponsor or a donor, all of your money's coming straight out here to help children that need it the most. That's what we do, and we've been able to maintain that. Obviously, as our income increases, then we have more funding then to spend on marketing, and so that the model works. Here we are just really careful with all of our money. In terms of our staff, we recruit within the communities, so we upskill teachers from the communities, which means we're not only helping the children, we're empowering the staff as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We do everything ourselves, so we showed you around our kitchen earlier.
Yeah.
My wife, as well as being our architect, is a very good cook, and her team then cook all the food out there, which we'll eventually be outsourcing to all our centres. So we do as much as we can to reduce costs. A big part of my role is overseeing all the spending, and I think I'd say I'm pretty tight when it comes to charity expenditure, and we really do get as much as we can out of every pound, dollar, whatever you like, donated to the organisation.
That's incredible. So let's get into the meat and bones of it, right?
Okay.
What initiatives and programs do you guys offer here at these centres, and how do they help empower your students to unfold their potentialities?
Okay, so at the moment we have a centre in Mafeking, and we have 3 full-time centres in the Western Cape and an additional reading centre in Somerset West. So at each centre, so we have a centre here, one in Elgin, one in Crabo. The idea of these centres is during the mornings they will provide learning support programs for all the children in our partnering schools that fall behind. We've all seen it and experienced it. I'm dyslexic, I experienced it, where you have children who are sat at the back of their classes just unable to really digest the information they're taught, and they panic and their confidence dips. So all of those children come to our centres in the mornings. They're given intensive reading programs, intensive but fun and enjoyable, and before long they're back up to their correct reading ages, confidence instilled, and then they progress and advance through school. So that's the mornings. In the afternoons, all of our sponsored children come to our centres. So that's all the children that come from the communities and go to those schools. They then come to us in the afternoons and they receive holistic education and care. What is that? That is mentor support, that is tutoring, that's a healthy lunch. It's loads of extracurricular activities. You'll see in the house here, they can do gardening, carpentry in the workshop, they can do swimming lessons. Claude teaches them art. We have self-defense lessons, we have even Kung Fu and yoga. Yeah. We have specialists that come in, such as occupational therapists. We have our own educational psychologists. So what we're trying to do for these kids is provide them with everything they need to succeed. That starts with getting them passionate about something, whether it's playing piano or playing cricket. That was my passion when I was growing up, or reading, or we identify one thing that really kind of inspires each child.
Makes sense.
That's essential if you want to keep their focus, keep them out of gangs, if we're being honest. That's a big problem that we find. That's a real influence, just to keep them inspired and motivated, and that's what the centres do. This one's really special because you imagine if you grow up in a small township house, quite often your parents will keep you inside to protect you. Not always, but sometimes. And as a consequence, you don't go out much. You don't see the world much. Your kind of perspective is very narrow. The kids that come here in the afternoons, they get to experience freedom. They get to learn and play in a kind of safe environment, and it broadens their horizons. Suddenly, they're not thinking, well, "I'd like to be a policeman" or "I'd like to be a gardener." Nothing wrong with those jobs at all. But they are suddenly thinking, "Wow, I could be an architect. I could be an engineer. I could be a swimming coach." You know, it's really just showing them that there are any number of options available to them, and that's what we're trying to do, just to inspire each child really that comes into our care.
Oh, I love the vision. I love the vision, Matt. I also wanted to ask, why education? Of all the routes you could have gone down,
Sure.
to help, you know, what was it about education that drew you to it?
So I count myself as very fortunate. My mum was a teacher, so my brother and I sort of followed her around to the schools where she taught, and those were very good schools. And I realised that although I didn't always enjoy sitting in classrooms and learning, I realised that the schooling I had provided a brilliant foundation for my life. Also, a really good kind of social education. And I felt that by the time I was 18, I was ready to go out into the wide world, but I was well prepared. And education gives you life choices. And that's what I want. I want each of our kids to have the same choices that I've had. And I think most people would agree that you can only really have those choices, have those opportunities with the right education. Critically, the correct education, because each child will need a very specific kind of education.
Yes.
Here in the Somerset West area, we're partnered with a number of different schools, be it state schools, private schools, or school of skills, or traditional schooling, more progressive schooling, different exam boards, different syllabuses. So we identify which is more suitable for each child.
I like that. Yeah, very organic, as you mentioned.
Sure.
Yeah. It's okay. I like that. Yeah, I can see why you have chosen that then, because it is so necessary, right? To be, at the end of the day, we hop on a lot about freedom in the 21st century, and 100% it is education that allows you to actually take those or take that responsibility of your own life into your hands.
Sure.
So makes sense.
So a big moment this year so the first kids that we took on in grade 1 matriculated at the end of last year, and of course it's not the be all and end all. Exam results aren't the be all and end all. But obviously we were very nervous, and I was waiting over Christmas just thinking, please, for them, I really want them to have done well. And in the Western Cape, they all passed.
Hey, look at that.
One of our students even got distinctions.
You must be elated when you found.
Yeah, it's a big moment. I'm really happy for them. We're going to have a braai here next week, and they all can get together and celebrate together.
Hey, look at that, pizza party. Although probably not pizza.
But no, definitely a braai in South Africa.
Yeah.
But we know these children so well. We know their challenges. We know everything they've been through. To get to that point is huge. I mean, the challenges I had when I was growing up were nothing in comparison. So to get to that end point, to get there, and like we say, to have options. The world's their oyster now. And critically, that moment's important as well for all of our other kids now. We've got over 100 kids that we sponsor here now, and they look up to these role models, and so now they can see, okay, if Latham can do it, I can do it. If Kim can do it, I can do it. So it was a big moment. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a slightly nervous Christmas period. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad it turned out the way it did, and all the best, Hopefully onward and upward, right?
Yeah, and we have an alumni page as well, and we like to follow their stories. Our first graduates from Mafeking, where we first set up now, they've got degrees, and some are in the workplace already, and they're thriving because they were given the opportunities, and it's down to them. They wanted it, and we love going, just hearing their stories, and a lot of them have settled down with families now, but now they're able to do that because they have a solid income and bright futures. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
It is really cool.
It's exciting, for sure.
So Matt, I wanted to find out from you, how exactly does the sponsorship process look like? How is it sifted through, and how are the funds allocated, and how do the sponsors impact the students?
Okay, so it's a good question. It's a big one. So let's start at the beginning. Our selection process is the most thorough part of what we do. It's really important that we find children that need the support, that will be able to make the most of the support. So what we do to begin with is we partner up with local grassroots organisations, with early learning centres, schools. We take recommendations from them. We send out applications to the communities. Once we compile all of these, we will then go on house visits, meet the families, have a look at their home circumstances, find out who they are, and the critical part of what we do is making sure that there is at least one parent or guardian that is there to support their kid throughout. It's a huge investment,
Yes, it is.
And when they get to the teenage years, they will need someone there just to give them a little nudge.
In the right direction. Yep.
Exactly, and then we assess the children. We do a financial background check of the family. So that process takes 3 months. And then our sponsored children are ready then, and we look for sponsors for them. The sponsorship process is wonderful. It's really, really personal. We have sponsors all over the world that contact us through our website. We'll send them the child's profiles, and from when they sign up, they will then receive regular updates, photo albums. They'll be able to send emails and communicate with the children, and just follow their process all the way. A lot of them come and visit. I have a visitor coming this afternoon. She's been sponsoring a child for a while, and will come out once a year and meet the child. And what quite often happens then is that sponsor will then sponsor more children. They'll tell their friend and they'll sponsor more children. And one of the favourite parts of my job is actually creating that link, making it real for the sponsor. And the kids love it. They love receiving letters and little gifts at Christmas time, and so it really builds up that kind of relationship. Communication is really key there. I never wanted to have an organisation where people put money in and they don't hear anything, or they don't know. Really, if you're clever, I think you can build that relationship, and your sponsors will become part of your organisation. And like I say, then it grows very, very quickly.
Yeah. All right, no, I dig that. And so how many, how big of a volunteer group do you have at your SOS centres, and what do the what do you call it, those that help do on a daily basis?
So we don't have many volunteers. We have a lot of trained staff.
I see.
So as I say, we recruit from the communities mainly, and we train up our staff to give the kids all the support they require. Sponsors will often come out and volunteer at the centres, read with the kids and help prepare lunch, and we have sponsors working all over the UK to raise funds. In terms of volunteering at the centre, we're very careful with that because it's very important that we manage carefully who visits the kids, how much time they spend with the kids, if they've got the right expertise. We're obviously very protective of our kids, so there is a process to go through for volunteering. But we do welcome volunteers, and it's an incredible experience to spend time in our centres and be part of it.
I can only imagine. And so how, for those who might want to become a part of the SOS team, or just help in some way or another, how would they be able to do that?
So look at our website. It's www.sosafrica.com, and email us. All the emails come straight to me. My job involves doing all the kind of recruiting, marketing, and essentially most of the running of the charity. But that's great because it means that I can see all the moving parts. I can work out who would fit in where, and
gives you a nice overview. Yeah.
Sure. And we have an amazing operations manager here, Leandy, who specifically oversees the projects. So contact us by all means, and then we will read through your CVs and your experience, and if there's an opportunity there, we'll definitely set it up.
All right, cool. Now you guys know. Now you guys know, yeah. So let's talk a bit about the challenges, obstacles that you have encountered in the last 22 years. What have been some of the biggest? How have you managed to get through them, and what have you learned?
Okay, good question. So I think any organisation would tell you the financial challenges are pretty great. And the way we've got through that is by just diversifying our fundraising. So I've talked to you about child sponsorship. That's what I call my sleep at night funding, because sponsors sign up long term. So I know they'll commit to the kids, and I'll know that education's taken care of. I told you about a charity shop. We also come up with really authentic fundraising events in the UK. So we run abseils from historic buildings.
That's cool. Yeah.
I've got a caving event later this year, and they're designed for beginners. So it gets people interested in kind of extreme sports and things.
I like that, yeah.
My hands down favourite was when we took over a recently closed prison in the UK.
Okay.
So this is quite unusual, and it had closed 2 years before, and we ran a nominate an inmate event. So the prison officers that used to work there trained up our volunteers, and we reopened the prison.
Okay.
And we said to people, if you want to send a friend or a colleague to prison for 24 hours, you have to raise enough money to sponsor a child for a year.
Wow, look at that.
I didn't anticipate too much. I thought this is a bit out there.
Yeah,
the phone was off the hook.
Oh, really?
We had school teachers, we had principals, we had politicians, all being
That's
nominated
incredible.
to go
I love
in.
it, yeah.
And the event raised, the first one raised £35,000, and we ran it a couple of times. So we try and just come up with very authentic experiences so that people can really kind of experience something different. But at these events, we will, really show them the impact. So the last event I did was an abseil, and we were raising money for classrooms in Judo. So we had a model of the classrooms and information on the classrooms there, and we had a fundraising meter so they can all see the difference. So everyone that donates sees that their money's going towards that project. And then we had abseilers come and visit and look around the classrooms. So it's just to make it really tangible and transparent and quite fun. Actually, I quite like these.
Yeah,
It's a different side to the. We even litter pick at Glastonbury Festival. So I'll take a small army of litter pickers, and that's a great experience as well. Raises a lot of revenue for us, keeps the farm clean during the festival, and
no doubt.
So if I was to advise anyone starting an organisation or someone struggling, I would say just diversify as much as you can. So that's the financial side. Here the challenges are obviously huge. My role is to sort of oversee all of our projects with Leandy, but usually every day a problem will present itself, whether it's children not coming to school, whether it's the kind of barriers to learning that they face, the challenges they face at home can be quite overwhelming, and we're often having to go and meet their families and just talk through problems and issues, and schooling can be quite challenging for them, so we're very hands-on with that. If I was to advise anyone running an organisation on the ground, I would say be aware of the context. So I was lucky that my doctorate, my PhD, was on South African politics. So I had a very sort of good insight into the political history of the country. I understand the challenges. I understand a little bit about why the country is where it is at now after the end of apartheid, and the challenges faced by the people in the communities. You have to be grassroots. You have to kind of involve them as much in the process. So lots of challenges on the ground here.
It seems like it, yeah.
But we have a great team of very experienced people that can help us along the way.
Yeah, that's what it's about, right? And the whole what I'm getting from what you just mentioned as well, again, is just the community.
Definitely.
That's the feeling that I'm getting from it, and
Definitely.
it's, especially if you're going, you can go to their houses and discuss things with the parents as well, and
Definitely.
just have everybody involved who needs to be involved, so that you can get to the trouble at hand quicker, sooner rather than later, and have it kind of expand into something that would be unpleasant, and you can kind of mitigate that.
And the parents and the families, they all buy into what we do. They understand that it was hard for them. They didn't have the opportunities that they want for their kids. And so we work as a team. We have regular parent meetings. We even have workshops where our counsellors will come in and talk to them a little bit about bringing up kids and all the challenges, because they've all been through them, and we all have. Well, I'm going through them at the moment. So
not there yet. So.
It's it'll come. So it's really just being very human about it, being very down to earth, and just community driven for sure. Not to just go in there presuming you know everything.
No, of course, that's never a good way to do it.
No, it's not. And the Western Cape is blessed with a lot of highly skilled people. So even if you don't have them on your workforce, you can get consultants in to assist with any problems you're having within the organisation as well.
It's good to know.
And collaborate with some of the other charities. So we collaborate with the Village Collaboration based just below the mountain there in Solari's Pass. And this is another project we run. It's a care worker training scheme that we set up with Lorraine from the Village Collaboration a couple of years ago. We identified the need for support for young adults that didn't get matric.
I see.
And we sort of came up with the idea that there's kind of an ageing population here, residential homes that are in desperate need of care workers. And so Lorraine developed this course where within 3 months you can take a young adult, you can give them practical training, theory, you can get them certified and into the workplace in 3 months.
I like that.
So they don't have matric, but they can get a sustainable job that will raise the standard of living of their entire family within 3 months. We've already got 45 graduates. So in 2 years we have 45 predominantly young ladies who are working in that industry now, predominantly in care homes, and they've got bright futures. Their lives have been transformed. So it's collaborating, it's working out where the need is, and then it's making a plan.
Pretty much make it happen. Yeah. Wow, no, that really is a beautiful thing that you guys have managed to achieve through those collaborations. And might I just ask, are there any new initiatives or projects up and coming that you guys might be able to tease us with?
There are so many different areas where we could take the charity. I think I've always said it's important to stay open to opportunities. More recently, we formed links with local orphanages. There's a great need there. Obviously, the children there, their barriers to learning are huge. And what we would like to do is incorporate them into our sponsorship scheme.
Okay.
So initially, we were looking for kind of more stable households where there would be at least one parent or guardian to support a child. Now we realise that there's, for example, Girls and Boys Town in Makassar. The staff there are brilliant. And they are so they're not going to be able to replace parents, but they provide a solid foundation for these kids, and we can work with them. So now we're looking to possibly develop scholarship schemes for their children to bring them to our centres and schools in this area. So that's one thing that we're looking at. The other is School of Skills. School of Skills, there's often a stigma attached to School of Skills, but they are brilliant. They provide the kind of training that will get children and young adults jobs so quickly. It's a problem in the UK as well. I think everyone's got degrees, but everyone needs a plumber.
But everyone needs a plumber, or an electrician.
Right. It's true. One of our first graduates, Andrew, he went to a School of Skills, and then he went to a local apprenticeship in the steel industry. They loved him. They kept him on. He's now got a full-time job with them, and he's just had a promotion. Right.
Incredible,
It has to be tangible. We can't all just throw our letters around. I know I'm one to talk, but that's not going to necessarily get you a career. We have to be realistic. It has to be tangible here, and so each child we try and find the right career path for them. School of Skills are brilliant, and I know we're going to form a lot of partnerships with kind of schools of skills with potential. We already work with Mondial School of Skills, and they're doing great things.
Nice. When did that come about?
So that was 4 years ago now.
4 years, okay.
And the founder there is extraordinary. She's come up with such a brilliant program. We've now got 5 children there. We're going to increase those numbers again next year. And they're children who, to be honest, they don't thrive in academia. They're very practical. Our oldest is going to graduate at the end of this year, and he's a carpenter.
Hey, look at that!
So fantastic. So that's going to be definitely an avenue we're going to kind of look down more over the next 12 months, and then possibly set up a new centre at a school as well. So we've got lots of.
Hey, look at that!
Yeah. Let's see how the fundraising goes, and we'll make a plan. But it's exciting.
It does seem like it. Yeah. So, what was it that I was going to ask now? So, if I could ask about your just some impact stories, anecdotes throughout your 20 odd years of doing this now.
Sure. I think it has to be about the kids. I mean, there's so many inspiring stories. Remember early days in the charity, we had Ubu and Utu were our twins, and they were very cheeky. And I remember early on when I didn't quite have the confidence in the organisation, we would get called up in front of the principal. They'd been misbehaving again. And but Henry and I believed in these boys, and we fought for them. And the principal, threatened action. We persuaded, and they stayed. Anyway, the boys graduated. They've now both got degrees. But when they graduated matric, the principal shook our hands and said, "They're the biggest success stories in the school."
You love to see it, yeah.
Yeah, and that gives me goosebumps thinking about it. And they even came to mine in Claudia's wedding and outdanced us on the dance floor.
Oh, really?
Quite not difficult, to be honest. But these success stories I've told you about. Andrew, we have Elvino, who grew up in a very impoverished community in Grabo. He's now been given a scholarship to Durban High, and he's been recruited by the Sharks. So he's
incredible,
and one day he's hoping to join the Springboks. That is quite hard for me because I'm a big England fan. So the idea that we're assisting the Springboks cause is not ideal from my perspective. But of course I'm delighted for him. So. Yeah, and there's just stories everywhere. I've also told you about our care worker training scheme. Those ladies, I drive through Solari's Pass now, and they're all waving, and to see them walking down Solari's Pass in their uniforms with such pride and such dignity, and it's awesome. So really, it's just every child in my office. I don't know if you saw when we were up there. There's a little picture of every child that we support, and just pick a face. Everyone has been through an incredibly challenging journey. They turn up every morning. They're working hard, and I could tell you each of their stories.
Yeah.
So it's inspiring. It's how they've overcome their personal challenges. And next week when we have our matric bri, to sit there and look at them and think they're graduates now and they've overcome incredibly difficult things. So it's all about the kids. You don't need to look much further than that really to be inspired.
No, 100%, right? That's the whole the impetus, right, for the organisation. Is the children.
My job is to try and bring that across to sponsors. When you're living on a different continent and you don't understand the challenges, that's why it helps when people like you guys come in and ask to chat to us, because if we could bring them all here and show them, we would, but that's not possible. It goes a long way. Yeah. So it's really understanding the context and the challenges these kids face.
So another thing I wanted to ask is, what have been some of your biggest lessons that you've learned during this time?
I think growing the organisation from the beginning, I would say I have an expression. I think it's a common one: all in divine order. That is, don't try and rush. Don't try and grow something beyond its means. Let it happen in a natural way. We all know there are so many problems out there that we're all trying to solve. The minute you start overstretching yourself, then you're forgetting about the people you've already committed to. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned is all the people that are currently under your wing that you're looking after, make sure they're okay and their futures are secure before you go elsewhere and try and solve other problems. I'd say that's the first one. The second one is always understand the context. When you're supporting new children, new families, new communities, try and understand where they're coming from, what they've been through. I said earlier that my studies on South African politics have helped me. It's important to realise we've all got a history, and I know there's lots of people that want to do good. But to do good, you have to understand how to do it, and how to do it in a respectful way. So I would suggest that's probably the second lesson I've learned. Do a lot of listening first before you try and
it's a very important
give your
thing,
10 cents.
Everybody, especially nowadays, seems like everybody knows what the problem is and what exactly one needs to do to fix it, except when it happens to them, and then then we're suddenly clueless, right?
Ultimately, you don't learn anything when you listen to your own voice, right?
A lot of the time it can be like that,
So I think, and as I said, this society here has a lot of very highly skilled people and a lot of brilliant NGOs that maybe don't have the means to help everyone, but they definitely have the expertise. So pull your resources, learn, understand. As an organisation, we did that during COVID. We were just an education charity. COVID hit, and then we transformed into distributing food packages to thousands of families in the area.
Recognize the need.
Yeah, sure. Kids can't learn if they're hungry, right? So stay open and recognize the need, but listen. I think that's what I've learned. Always listen as much as you can.
But I also like what you mentioned there in the beginning about not overreaching, right?
Sure.
So often we can get so bogged down in our minds about things not happening the way we want them to, how quickly we want them to, that we then kind of start messing with ourselves mentally, and then we don't even do the thing that we can already do or already doing. We don't do that as well as we possibly could because we're already reaching for the next thing, and
100%.
It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult balance. How would you recommend somebody deal with that?
Well, my wife will laugh at this, but I'm a bit of a spreadsheet geek.
Yeah, is it?
So I run very thorough spreadsheets and budgets. I have an amazing admin lady, Ray, who's behind the scenes working them with me. We know exactly, obviously, what funding we currently have, all the people we can currently support. We also have reserve funding to make sure we never have to take kids out of school. You can emotionally prepare yourself for the responsibilities of looking after hundreds of children and lots of staff, but all that counts at the end of the day, obviously, that you're doing the right thing and the right thing by them, but that it's sustainable. Like you say, that's vital. So you have to have the financial planning in place, and that's fortunately something that I enjoy. I enjoy budgeting. I enjoy planning ahead. I like spreadsheets. So you do have to have the whole package. You have to be organised. The last thing, we've never taken a kid out of school for financial means, and hopefully we never will. You cannot tell someone you cannot offer someone those opportunities and then take them away.
I mean, after 2 decades, not one. You're telling me not one child has been taken out of
Not taken out.
Yeah,
a couple of that made the decision that it's not for them. That's going to happen.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
That's clearly going to happen. Some maybe fall in love early. I don't know.
That happens too. Yeah, you never know what life throws at you.
Their priorities change.
Yeah.
But no, we've never had to say to a child, we can't afford your schooling. I'm sorry, that's it. And as long as I'm around, that will hopefully not be the case.
Yeah.
But I've got a good team around me, so you have to manage it properly, and you have to have contingency plans in place as well. This house was bought by an incredible sponsor a couple of years ago. It's now our contingency plan. If the charity is ever in financial hardship, the property could be sold. That will cover a year's education for all our kids.
Nice.
So very very simple.
Yeah.
But it's feasible. So it's about how you do it. You got to plan ahead.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no,
that helps you sleep
makes
at
a lot
night.
of sense.
We're a family-run charity. That helps you sleep at night.
Yeah, I can imagine, because that would be a lot of stress to take down if you or to take in if you haven't put everything down on your spreadsheets that you said, or just planning it. Yeah,
for sure. And going back to advice, I think what gets me through the kind of stressful element, if ever there's times when things become stressful, just remember why you're doing it. Just go and spend time with the kids.
Yeah, so you'd say it's like an attitude type of thing. You just kind of shift your perspective back to why you started this.
What's it all
to
for?
begin with? Yeah.
You just go and sit, and I watch my staff with our kids in our centre. After half an hour, I'm good to go again. Yeah, and that sounds cheesy, sure, but it's a fact. It's what we're doing. It's why we're doing 100%. It. If you get too bogged down in the financial elements and the marketings and the pressures and the competition and then you can grow weary. But just remember why you're doing it.
Yeah. At the same time, though, kids have that energy about them that also just kind of rejuvenates your own spirit.
Sure.
I've noticed it myself. Even if I'm having a worse day, I can come across a little kid and just say hello. The first thing that comes out of their mouth will be something so great that'll just make you smile for no, just like that.
Well, because they're innocent. They're kind of, a lot of them haven't been sort of tainted at all by us cynical adults, and so their outlook on life is so refreshing, isn't it? So yeah, definitely you're right. It keeps sort of brings you back. Brings you back. And
100%. Yeah. All right. So Matt, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Truly, I love the work that you guys do here at SOS. Although this is only one of your centers. Yeah. But it is an incredible thing that you guys are doing. I wish you nothing but continued success, flourishing, prosperity. Is there anything? I do have one last question, but before I get on to that one, is there anything else you'd like to mention? I guess I just want to say a big thank you. I'm hoping some of our sponsors and some of the amazing people around the world will be watching this. All of this and the 22 years of what we've done is because of you. Just a big thank you for believing in us. We send you photos and updates from the other side of the world, and you have a lot of faith in us. One of my favourite moments yesterday was emailing all of the sponsors of our matrics who all passed, and being able to say to them, they did it because of you, because of themselves, but because of your support. So big thank you to everyone for just believing in us, really. And I hope you all get the feeling that those matric sponsors got yesterday afternoon. I've had lots of emails back. Just a thank you. Yeah. That's beautiful, and I'm sure they will be elated hearing that. So the final question, right? Are you ready for this one?
Okay.
All right. So, if you had some words of wisdom to give to the world, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a biggie. I would say, we touched on it earlier on. I would say believe in community. Believe in the importance of community. We can all get caught up in our own sort of isolated worlds. And to be fair, that happens a lot in South Africa, I think. Fortunately, people like yourselves and the NGOs that work here all work for community. But I think what I realised is, by helping other people, by providing them with education, it just improves society. It improves the workforce, it improves the positive energy that goes around. It's by helping other people, we're helping ourselves. It's the kind of Desmond Tutu Ubuntu effect. It's true. It's you got to believe in each other, make it happen. And the other thing I would say, if you're running an organisation, working for a big company. My wife will laugh at this as well. Just be good to yourself. We all put ourselves in this kind of big new social media era under a hell of a lot of pressure to do a lot of things.
Yeah, no doubt.
If I was to give advice to someone, looking to start on this kind of career, or actually in any career, just be kind to yourself. Recognise that you're doing all right. My wife laughs that I have a self high five. I'm my own boss, right?
Oh, yes.
So I don't have a boss to give me a high five. So sometimes when things go right, I'll be okay, brilliant, awesome. I don't mind that. I'm not embarrassed to share it. I think we need to be good to ourselves as well. Be positive, have a positive energy around you, and be kind to yourself, and good things happen.
It's an authenticity thing too, right?
Yeah.
To be kind to yourself, right? It's kind of like a measure of how you can treat other people as well. Because if you're constantly tearing yourself down, then you're more likely not to be too positive when you're talking to other people. And so just being authentic to yourself by being kind to yourself, by saying that, like, I deserve to treat myself better, and as a result of that, we are then able to provide that extra abundance of which we have given ourselves, which we are then able to provide.
What he said, that was good. But also, the children are watching. Hey, first thing we tell all of our staff is, hold yourself, be proud of yourself, what you do, and the kids will follow. Lead by example, and the kids will follow. Be positive, and I agree.
No doubt. All right. Well, thank you, Matt. This has been fantastic.
Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And again, nothing but flourishing for you guys. We'll definitely catch up with you again soon and see what's happening over here.
You should interview some of our kids.
We may well do that. Thank you for the offer.
No worries.
All right. And as to our viewers, thank you again so much for watching. It is the only way that we can continue making this is because of your support, and so just thank you. But also, as to the message we just received, be kind to yourselves. And on that note, have a good one. See you soon. Bye-bye now.